today we're talking about word problems, specifically with fractions, but I'm going to go through some tips to help you with word problems in general. First, there are a lot of words here, and these are just a few that you might see to help you realize what will help you to identify an addition or subtraction problem, as well as a multiplication or division problem. So you can reference these as you're working on word problems, and I would suggest looking over these before your homework tonight. So one of the first things that I notice with students is they have a hard time being able to distinguish between a division problem or a multiplication problem when they're reading through word problems. So one of the keys is to think about whether or not the total is given. If they give you the total amount, then it's probably a division problem. If you're looking for a total amount, then you need to think about whether it is an addition problem or a multiplication problem. So in this example, I have 15 total, 3 groups with 5 in each group. So I have some examples down here. In the first example, you're given the total number of 15, and you know that there are 3 groups, and you're being asked to find the number in each group, which is obviously 5. So this is going to be 15 divided by 3 equals 5. In the next problem, we know the total number is 15. We know the total number in each group is 5. And we're looking for the number of groups. So for this example, 15 divided by 5 equals 3 would be our problem. In our last example, we're given that there are 3 groups and there's 5 in each group, and we're asked to find the total number. The problem is 3 times 5 equals 15 because we're finding the total number. Now, these are very simple examples. However, if you get to a word problem, if you would just try to get yourself to break down, to kind of see through all the words and see what the basic example is of what they're looking for, what they give you and what they're looking for. So look for the given and look for what they're trying to get you to find, and break it down to really simple ideas and kind of get through all the extra words. You'll find that a lot of multiplication and division problems can be looked at the same way we looked at these. This is another type of problem that I see kids getting confused with. So here I have $30 split in half. Which is correct, or are they the same? 30 divided by 2 versus 30 divided by 1/2. 30 divided by 2 is going to give me 15, which is clearly half of 30. 30 divided by 1/2 is not the same. 30 divided by 2 is actually the same as 30 times divided by 1/2 is actually the same thing as 30 times 2, which is 60. So those are not the same problems. Now, if I wanted to write 30 divided by 2 with a fraction, I would actually say 30 times 1/2, or half of, times means of, 30 equals 15. So I'm either going to say 30 divided by 2 if I want to use division, or I'm going to say half of 30 and use 1/2 times 30. We're going to cut this recipe in half. So when I cut a half a cup of milk in half, I get 1/2 of 1/2, which equals 1/4 a cup of milk. A half of 2 eggs is going to be 1 egg. Pretty easy. A half of 3 cups equals 3 halves, which is 1 1/2 cups of Bisquick. 2/3 of a recipe. Again, there's an understood of with all of these, which means you're multiplying. Half of the recipe. Of means multiply. 2/3 of the recipe, so you multiply. 4 1/4 of the recipe, so you multiply. I'm going to multiply 2/3 times 1/2. My 2's cancel, and I get 1/3 of a cup of milk. And then 2 eggs Well, this is going to be interesting, right, with the eggs? So 2/3 of 2 eggs equals 4/3, which is 1 1/3 of an egg. We can't really do 1 1/3 of an egg, so we'll do 1 egg for our recipe. 3 cups of Bisquick, 2/3 times 3 cups, if you're doing 2/3 of 3 cups, cross cancel. We actually end up with 2 cups of Bisquick. So since we're multiplying 4 1/4 of the recipe, we need to change 4 1/4 to an improper fraction because we can only multiply with fractions. We can't multiply with improper or with mixed numbers. So 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So this is 17/4. So we're going to multiply 17/4 times 1/2, which is 17/8, which equals 1 or 2 1/8 of a cup of milk. For 2 eggs, we're going to multiply 17/4 times 2. We can cross cancel. We get 17/2, which equals 8.5 eggs. And I guess for your recipe, you would just have to decide, do you want 8 eggs or do you want 9 eggs? So it's hard to do a half, or you could mix it up and pour it out at approximately a half. 3 cups of Bisquick, 17/4 times 3 is 91/4. And that is so here 17 times 3 was 51, not 91, and that equals 12 3/4 cups of Bisquick. One thing to keep in mind is if your recipe is making the amount, if you're trying to make the recipe smaller, like 2/3 of the recipe or a half of the recipe, then each ingredient should be smaller, right, when you go and do the math. To kind of use common sense. And here with 4 1/4 of the recipe, we're trying to make it bigger, right? We're trying to feed more people, so our numbers should be bigger. A half a cup of milk changed to 2 1/8 cup of milk. So again, just kind of think through, should our numbers be getting bigger or smaller? There are 4 litters of kittens. Each litter has 5 kittens. How many kittens are there? We have 4 litters, 1, 2, 3, 4. In each litter, we have 5 kittens. So in case you need to draw pictures, I know this is a really easy one, but it can help you think it through. And this is a really easy example of what I had shown you earlier with thinking in terms of groups. And of course, our total is 4 times 5, which equals 20. Now, our problems are going to get a lot harder, and they're going to have fractions in them. But if we can think like this, it will help us. So number 2, last year I made 2/5 less than I make this year. If I currently make $55,000, how much did I make last year? This is a different kind of problem than our last one, and it's definitely a little harder. So the first thing we need to think about is whether we're multiplying or dividing. So we're looking for 2/5 of 55,000. Of means multiply, so we're going to set it up as 2/5 times 55,000 over 1. So we're going to cross cancel. 5 into 55,000 is 11,000. Then we're going to multiply straight across. 2 times 11,000 is $22,000. This is how much I made last year. So this is last year's salary. So this is $22,000 is how much less than we made last year. So this is the amount less than what we made last year. All right, so what do? in order to figure out the answer to the question, which is how much did I make last year? So I made $22,000 less last year. We just had to figure out what number kind of went with that 2/3, right, to know the amount less. So we get 33. So last year I made $33,000. So basically what we initially do is we figure out what the 2/5 means as an amount. And then that we have to just take away from what we make this year in order to figure out what we made last year. I have 2 bags of sugar with 20 pounds of sugar in each bag. I need to fill up sugar shakers for each table in a restaurant. So if each sugar shaker will fit 1 2/3 pounds of sugar, how many sugar shakers do I need? Okay, so I have 2 bags of sugar, so I'm going to draw my 2 bags of sugar, my lovely drawing skills. And in each bag, there are 20 pounds of sugar. I'm going to use these 2 bags to fill up all those sugar shakers. So we need to figure out the total amount of sugar. So we have 20 plus 20, which is 40 pounds of sugar that we have to use in all our sugar shakers. So when we know total, and we're going to split it up amongst a bunch of smaller things, what kind of problem is it? Division. So we're going to take this 40 pounds and split it amongst all of our little sugar shakers. And I'll draw our little sugar shakers here. And we have no idea how many sugar shakers we need. That's what we're trying to figure out. But we do know that each sugar shaker can fit 1 2/3 of a pound within it. So our problem is our total 40 pounds divided by our individual 1 2/3 pounds to see how many sugar shakers we need. And we do need to change these to improper fractions because with division and multiplication, we can only work with fractions, no mixed numbers. And then we work from there with copy, change, reciprocal. Once we have a multiplication problem, we're going to cross cancel. And how many sugar shakers can we? 24. So we can fill 24 sugar shakers with our 20 pounds of 40 pounds of sugar. I have 4 pizzas sliced into 8 pieces each. If 12 people are sharing, how many pieces does each person get? And our answer could be in a fraction. That's fine. We need, like the last problem, we need to figure out how many total pieces we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pizzas, and there's 8 slices in each. So our total amount, of course, is 8 times 4, which is 32. 32 total pieces of pizza. So we have 32 total pieces, and basically we have 12 groups is what it means. We have 32 total pieces and 12 groups, the groups are people. We want to know how much in each group, how many each person gets. So we're going to do a division problem, 32 divided by 12, okay, which is the same thing as what multiplication problem? Right. This is the same as 32 times 1/12. So we can cross cancel. And when we cross cancel, 4 goes into 12 3 times. 4 goes into 32 8 times. So we get the fraction 8/3, and we're going to simplify that to see how much each person gets. Each person gets 2 2/3 pieces of pizza. 7/8 of 8th graders stay at Cary Academy for upper school. If there are 160 8th graders, how many leave Cary Academy at the end of 8th grade? And then we're asked how many 8th graders stay at Cary Academy for upper school. So why don't we kind of put these two problems, these two questions together, and we can do them in whatever order we want. So this means 7/8 of 160. Well, of means multiply. So 7/8 times 160. I'm going to put that over 1. We can cross cancel. And we get 140. But we need to think about what this number stands for. Which question is it answering? Because there's actually two questions there. We always need to think about what our numbers mean. 7/8 stay. And we found 7/8. So that means 140 stay at Cary Academy for upper school. So we actually just answered the second question, right? So what are we going to do to figure out the first question? We're going to subtract the total amount of students minus the amount that stay to figure out the amount that leaves.